Yo, 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 yo.
Test.
Yeah, it's recorded. It's red. Yeah.
That's pretty good, huh?
That was a good clap.
Thanks, man. I'm in charge of the claps, I think.
Ready for this?
Whoa!
I saved that for on air. Are they a sponsor?
I mean, they send them to us.
I'm drinking this,
so
right?
yeah. I don't think we promote sponsors on here, though.
I'll turn it around.
I mean, you can face it towards the camera. We just don't say Redcon1 promo code.
No, just for Flag Never Fail. Austin is the best code. It's always going to be evolving. The last one crushed.
You're funny. Welcome to the Progress Over Everything podcast. We've landed on a name.
Yeah, we got there. It took us a while.
Took you a while.
We don't have a theme song yet.
No, we're not going to get it. Should we
No?
get one?
I mean, you have multiple songs.
Yeah, I guess. I thought like
With
maybe
that title.
we had to make a new song. I do actually have a song called Progress Over Everything.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Maybe our engineer, Gage, will mix it into...
When we look at Gage,
He looked away.
freezes. He's like, he
ain't putting it in there.
He doesn't. He pretends like he's not even in the room. Jeez. All right, well, welcome back, my friend.
The Progress Over Everything podcast presented by Flag Never Fail.
There we go.
That was good.
Where you going?
We had our first guest on this episode, and they're leaving already. This
She-
show sucks.
Yeah. Dana was asking about the podcast, and I was like, hey, why don't you sit in on it, and we can talk? And then she left.
Do we wait for her to come back now, or do we just start the episode?
I don't know.
We're live already, and
We can't stop.
yeah, let's just
We're like a runaway train.
grab on. Holy shit.
Holy. So I wonder what she forgot about.
I don't know. Whatever it was important. She left fast,
Yeah, and it's 2 minutes of 12. So
which means she had a meeting at 12 o'clock.
yeah, probably. All right. What are we talking about this time? You got more questions from the people?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're gonna. I don't want every episode to turn into a viewer-driven episode. Or I want there to be engagement, but I want episodes to kind of. We'll save that.
All right. What do you got?
I think we should talk about Hunter.
Ooh, our first mini doc.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it yet. You guys are
we're holding it hostage.
You guys are almost done.
Yeah, we have.
Wait, is it out by the time this episode comes out?
Yes.
Okay. Do I get to see it before it goes out?
It-
Why'd you shrug? At least he's acknowledging us now.
We're making progress.
All right. Well, it's gonna be good, right?
Yeah, it'll be good.
All right, because I feel like I saw it get filmed and it was good.
Well,
maybe let me watch it once.
We
and then
lived it too.
Yeah,
How was the experience living it?
it was awesome. It was awesome. So should we? What do we start with here? Because we're all like, should we explain the concept of what we're doing?
We did. Yeah, we'll surface.
Let's touch on it real quick.
touch
All
on
right.
it.
So, we put out a lot of media, and I feel like last year we were running kind of ragged with. We were doing things, but we weren't actually doing them. Kind of like sawmilling, right? It'd be like, hey, we need to have a photo shoot. Rob, do you have any boards? And I was like, yeah, I'll mill a couple logs. So I'd go out and mill a couple logs for a photo shoot. And it was fun. We always have fun photo shoots, but...
I'm still waiting for my opportunity to mill some logs, but we keep going.
All right, well, I'll get you on the mill. Everybody's hit me up recently about using my sawmill.
So you make it look so awesome.
It's incredible. It's one of my favorite things to do.
I'm still trying to figure out what I want to build, but...
Just build a shelf, dude. Nice and simple. A live edge shelf.
That'd
Yeah.
be sick. What's
You're getting too distracted here. So this year, one of the things on my list that I wanted to do was film 12 mini documentary series. And so what we're doing is we're picking people that we think that we watch and we're like, damn, how'd they do that? Right. So I don't know what we're calling it, and we don't really have a name yet, but like a good name would be like how do you do that?
Yeah.
And one of the people that we watch locally that we work with is Hunter. And I have a general understanding of Hunter. I know that he sleeps outside 3 nights a week in the wilderness, and I always watch his videos, and I think to myself, like, damn, I wish I could do that. And when we were talking about who are we going to cover, people with amazing lives, Hunter was the first one. He's like, yeah, dude, I mean, he's sleeping in the snow 3 days a week. He's cooking. He's out there with his dog. And I know he's transitioning to be a YouTuber, but that's all we really knew. So we took a trip with him, and this is how I think the structure is always going to go, is we're going to go to the person and spend a few days with them. So
I think
that's what we did.
We kicked it off perfect, too, because the day before he came in, and we were like kind of brainstorming on the project, and him and I got to train together, which was just a nice, like, icebreaker when you get to train with someone and you're going to spend some time kicking each other's ass and kind of putting each other through a workout. So that was a good introduction for him and I, kind of sitting down. We all sat down afterward and talked about what we were going to go out and do, and just kind of like his goals for the year, how they align with the brand, everything we're doing, how we can all support each other, which is important, especially with right now the world of athletes and influencers and all these different things. For us, we're taking a stand on not necessarily like, hey, here's our athlete and here's our promo code. It's more so like, here's this person, here's they align with the brand, here's their mission, and we're going to help broadcast it on a bigger platform and work together. So we went out. I don't know where we went in Hungry Horse.
Bynes Bay.
Is that what, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But we went out there and it was a good time.
It was a really good time. We got to see like behind the scenes of what he does. We got to get some insight. Cause that's, I don't know if it's just my brain, but I've never been the dude that looks at other people and says like, oh, that must be nice.
Yeah.
Right. Like my brain goes past that. I go, oh, that must be nice. I wonder how they do that.
Yeah.
And then I want to like investigate. And I think that now more than ever in this world, there's so much opportunity to like figure out what you're going to do. I know that when people ask, they're like, hey, my kid's about to graduate high school. Do you have any advice? I'm like, well, what do they like to do? Because all you need to find is an industry that you kind of like, and you can turn it around. The video that's going to come out is, I know it's going to be amazing, and it's done by a dude who's been holding a camera for what, a year and a half? 2 years now? Like when we hired Gage, like he had a camera for a year, and he learned through watching some YouTube videos and stuff like that. And I think that's like the really rad thing now is like, if you figure out what you want to do, there's some kind of platform to make money. There's a way to educate yourself without paying $40,000 a semester to go to college. Like there's a way to do it.
Yeah.
And you might need to get creative sometimes, but there's a way to do it. And with Hunter, doing the same thing, just watching and be like, man, that's so cool. But I can't figure out time how to do that. How is this kid doing that? And I just want to ask him rather than just stop at it must be nice.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think it's an opportunity for us to be like really inquisitive and learn and be inspired. And if that's happening for us, let's film them, go into some depth, and then show them to some other people.
Yeah, it was sick being out there too, because everything that was happening or that I was learning out there or kind of seeing, I was like, I wonder if I could do this.
Yeah.
Or like at what point, I wonder to what level I can do something like this to fulfill that void for me without being, he's full blown, I don't know, is it overland camping? What is it?
Overlanding, yeah.
Like his truck is fully built out.
Full overland vehicle, yeah.
Yeah. And there was just, he has better internet in his truck than I do at my literal house.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, Starlink up there. Yeah, he's pretty kitted out, and I have a little understanding of overlanding, like how it works for me, but there's so much that goes into it. You can either be super simple and just buy a tent and sleep on the ground and call it a day, or you can go full maniac. And I think a lot of people go full maniac at first. Like you just buy everything. You have every single nonsense ever. And I've seen the arc of a lot of people, like once you get over that hump, and even me, like I bring stuff, I'll go out 3 times with all this stuff. And then after the 3rd time, I'm like, okay, the first aid kit I haven't used, but I'm going to keep it. But like this extra stove that for some reason I thought I was going to use, you stop bringing it.
Yeah.
And you end up like really choreographing or figuring out like, what do I want to bring with me? Because the thing is, you're trying to be minimalistic because you're trying to camp, but you're also in a truck.
Yeah.
So you're not. And I think he does a really interesting take on it because he's playing the game. So he's building a YouTube channel and stuff like that. So you actually have to bring stuff.
Yeah.
Like he has to bring the stove. When we went out, we cooked a pizza, which blew my mind, like how we did it. Even watching him build the fire, I was like, why are we building the fire like this? Like, this is weird.
Yeah.
And then I realized that like, oh, he's going to bury the pizza in coals to make the dough. And like everything was just rad.
Yeah.
So he's taking his own spin on it because it's not just that, but he's trying to make a living.
Yeah.
He's figuring out what works in engagement. He's playing with YouTube algorithms and things like that. And from face value, it's like, oh, this dude just likes to cook and be outside. And then you really dig in and you're like, okay, so he has an understanding of being a business owner and marketing because he's been a fitness trainer for 10 years?
Yeah.
And now that he's done being a fitness trainer, not done, but now that he's trying to make the transition, he's taking all of the knowledge that he learned there and he's trying to put it into how to market himself, Overlanding. So he's testing products, he's using stuff, he's getting attention, he's building up all these different things that are eventually, he's going to be ripping, you know? And not only that, he's doing something he absolutely loves, right? It's not like he finished fitness and he was like, all right, well, maybe I'll go back to school to be a bookkeeper or something, you know?
That's one of the things that I think is going to be interesting, like as we keep doing these videos and featuring other people, is just the amount of takeaways and how much perspective viewers can go into it and learn different things. So like us going out there, you might have had, let's say, 5 different takeaways or things you learned. I had 5 different ones. I'm sure Gage had 5 different ones. And I think just from seeing other people's experiences, since it aligns with the brand, it should be like a very cool viewing thing.
Yeah, and we have a list for everybody, and we're trying to hit all different kinds of people, right?
Yeah.
Like we're hitting women, we're hitting men, we're hitting.
We almost said specifically like not bodybuilders and
No, it's not fitness. It's not fitness. It's people that are like out there getting it, doing stuff that really align with us. And I mean, if it is fitness is going to be a part of their life, but it's not going to be the main part of their life.
I think everyone that we align with, and that's like something that we talk about with the brand, when all of a sudden like we're not selling stringer tanks anymore or shaker bottles. It's like, well, what is fitness and athletics to you? And I think you did a really good job talking about it in the brand presentation to like the staff. Do you want to talk about it kind of from a branding perspective?
Well, yeah. So I mean, fitness is it's the foundation for everything, right? And I think what I've seen a lot, because Dana and I have been doing this for 20 years, and over the 20 years, I mean, I think we've stayed pretty consistent, even with our fitness. One of the reasons people liked us is because we did more than just fitness. And some of the stuff that I see with people is when they first find fitness a little bit later, they go all in on fitness and it dominates their life. Like they're prepping meals, they're doing this bodybuilding, and they do it for like 2 years and then they just completely fall off.
Yeah.
And it's like this 2-year thing. And then for the rest of their lives, they show people this one show that they did that they were kind of in shape. And it's always really bummed me out because I think fitness, I know fitness is the foundation for everything. Like the reason that Hunter does so well is because, I got stuck out there. And when you get stuck, like he just hopped out and he just started shoveling. And like if he wasn't in shape, he would have been gassed, and even climbing up
trees,
doing everything, right? And with that base of fitness for him, one, it keeps him outside more. He runs outside, but the base of fitness allows him to be better at overlanding, as silly as that is. And I think that's where it comes down to across the board is like, if you have the base of fitness, the foundation of fitness, it allows you to do everything else better. But I think when people go all in on fitness, it can dominate your life to where you're not going out to eat. You're not you're not going to go overlanding because you're going to miss meal 3 and you have cardio in the morning and stuff like that. And I think that's where I've seen people burn out. And normally when they burn out with fitness, they just stop doing it altogether.
Yeah.
And that just always bums me out. Like, it's like, man, you're like, don't be burnt out on the foundation of life.
Yeah.
I
think the big thing with like fitness and people that achieve it at a high level, like Dana, for example, is you learn what you get out of it and how it pertains and helps with the rest of your life. Kind of like school, right? Like the question that you hear all the time that we've talked about on podcasts before is, should I go to college? Do I need a degree? Do I need this? But like I went to school, and more so what college taught me was how to be organized, how to play hockey, lacrosse, work 2 jobs, have a girlfriend, do freelance work, how to do and manage all these different projects, how to talk to teachers, how to talk to other students. And fitness kind of like the same way. Like if you can prep for a show, you're learning to be timely, you're learning to be organized, you're learning to be prepared, you're learning to track your workouts and be driven by data to a certain set and all these things. But like if you don't understand that you can relate all those things to the rest of your life and what you're doing at work, then you're just like, stop fitness and you're a turd.
Yeah.
So.
No, exactly. I mean, I think that, I'm not a big fan of school, but like I think back, I don't know why I just had a flashback to like 7th grade, like my first English class.
Well, walk me through it.
so 7th grade, first English class. I believe she was the cheerleading coach, so she was kind of pretty. And
Who? The teacher?
Yeah, and
Okay.
she liked athletes. So normally, I think in the past, the art teachers liked me, right? But in English, no one ever liked me because I can't read, I can't spell, I can't do any of that. But she used to like,
You about to get this lady in trouble?
no, she used to be nicer,
Okay.
nicer to me, right? And not focus on like the really smart kids in class. Like I didn't get like extra attention, but
Yeah.
I just felt more welcomed in class. And I remember reading and then having to break things down in symbolism and meaning and stuff like that. And I don't know why until just right now, but like I look at that and it's like, yeah, it has nothing to do with what I do now. And it's like, oh, it has everything to do with what I do right
Exactly.
now. Like that symbolism. And I think even, fast forwarding to, this is something people miss, man. They're like, I can't wait to start my life until after I'm out of the military. And it's like, dude, the military is going to teach you so many skills that are going to be perfect for the rest of life. Like our biggest focus here is SOPs.
Yeah.
If we had somebody in the military running SOPs, like that had a good understanding of in-service and out-service, they would crush. But like being a dishwasher, I think that it's kind of lowest of low job, right? Like being a dishwasher is like is there a lower job?
I'm sure there's people out there that are listening to this that wash dishes. There's got to be a lower job.
Yeah, I mean, but I did it for years.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe like in the kitchen, in that industry of working at a restaurant, of the
A
pole.
dishwasher's the lowest.
Yeah, relative to
I
that.
guess that's why it's so ingrained. It just felt like a really low
Yeah.
position. And, I used to do every job. Anybody asked me to do anything, I would just do it. And like that job, you could look at it having no value, but that's one of the reasons I started business is because as a dishwasher, because I was willing to do everything, I spent a lot more time with the owners.
Yeah.
And that was the big eye-opening thing is I realized that these owners of restaurants, like when you walk into a restaurant, you don't think like, I wonder who owns this place. But like a lot of times it's probably the guy at the host.
Yeah.
You know,
I know
like-
at Buffalo Cafe, we
Yeah,
always
like
run
you walk
into
in, you're
him.
like, oh, that's the owner. Like
Yeah.
he's in there ripping. And I always looked at the owners of businesses as people that like don't exist, like big corporations or whatever. And it's just like, this business exists and that's not my people. I'm just this guy that will never own a business. And working in restaurants as a dishwasher, that's what really opened my eyes to was like, oh, so it's 1 a.m. and the pipes are clogged. And I'm here with the owner
Yeah.
cleaning out the pipes. Like this is just a normal dude who just rips. And that's sort of what started opening my eyes to like, I didn't understand how to make products and sell yet, but I did understand the backside of like, oh, this is just like normal life. This
Yeah.
is the same as if the pipes were clogged at my house and I had to figure it out. But this dude is the big bad owner of this restaurant and, whatever. And I think my first job at Four Dogs in Marshallton, Pennsylvania, there was like 2 other partners. And I remember
Was it a restaurant?
yeah, restaurant. So 4 dogs. Maybe there was 4 owners. 4 dogs, 4 owners. Probably let's say there's 4 owners.
I like that.
Makes a lot more sense. But I remember Vaughn. He was the owner that was there, and he's just always in it, dude, fixing problems. And I never saw the other 3 owners. And then when I went to my next restaurant, John Brandt Lee, and he, same thing. Like, dude, he used to call me because he knew I was like a sketchy little graffiti artist skateboard kid, and like he would miss bills and they would chain his doors shut. And he'd call me and be like, hey, someone just told me there's chains on the doors. Can you get over there with bolt cutters and cut them off real quick? I'd be like, fuck yeah, dude. This is
You're
totally
gonna get yourself in trouble.
this is
on this.
totally in my wheelhouse. Or like, there was shut off things,
Yeah.
whatever. And he, whatever we need to do, but like, it felt like every single day he was doing something to keep the business alive.
Yeah.
And he would just call on me because I was the dishwasher. Like I was the dude who would just rip down, show up. I had bolt cutters. I would cut things off. And I remember being like, damn, I always thought, I like the same as me. Like
Yeah.
we're just the same people. So it really, really opened my eyes. And I think a lot of people miss that in normal life. Like the position that you're working in is like, oh, this is what I do. A great example of that is Chelsea. I mean, you're a great example, but we'll use Chelsea for example. Chelsea entered, I don't even know what Chelsea did, if she worked in the warehouse or whatever. And she just started like paying attention. And now, dude, my life does not function without her.
Yeah.
Like I'm embarrassed how many times I go to her during the day. She has complete access to my life. She bank account, like everything. Like if I die tomorrow, everyone's going to go to Chelsea to figure everything out. And it's like, yeah, she started like in the warehouse and just kept learning skills and paying attention and realizing where she can be valuable. And I hope to fucking God she never leaves. But if she does, like, she is so valuable. And I think a lot of people enter positions and they look at that position as like, oh, this is just it. So tying back to the mini docs, yeah, we're all going to pick up 5 little things. Gage will learn 5 little things. You'll learn 5 little things. I'll learn 5 little things. But the thing I'm most excited for is to finish the 12 and notice that, like, oh, there's 3 main points that every single dude hits, you know? And I'm already thinking about some of the other people we have that aren't local and aren't really in our wheelhouse, like that we haven't met, that we're like going to fly out to Nashville and do a documentary on this guy. And the crazy thing is, it's going to be like 3 storylines that exist through every single thing. And it's going to be like, yeah, I wanted to do this thing. It didn't work. I pivoted. I took the past skills and it was really fucking hard. And then one day it just sort of started working. Yeah. And that's the big thing. That's what Hunter's doing. Like, he putting out videos and no one's watching. And then all of a sudden he's a Fire Tower video hit. And he's like, wait a second. Yeah. I made $500 this month off a Fire Tower video. And then I was able to leverage it for sponsorships. Cool. Let me make more of these.
Yeah. I mean, it's all the brand messaging that we literally put on shirts. Your shirt right now, all day, all night, I shall not flag nor fail, no handouts. Like, the storylines that are being told, or the ethos of the brand, however you want to look at it, is progress at all costs. No matter what, this is my mission, this is my goal, and I'm going to keep getting better at it. Yeah. I'm not going to look for handouts. I'm going to show up, and I'm going to do all these things. And that is the string that ties it all together, however you want to look at it. So they're going to be really fun. Yeah. Because there's people that we sat around and we're like talking about people, and if anyone has any ideas of drop people, in the comments, if they align with the brand.
We don't have all 12 planned out. We're sort of scaling up pretty well. So we're starting with one proof of concept in Montana. Next one is a little bit same-ish. Like, we're not on airplanes. We can do pickup shots. But then after that, like, March is where it's like, okay, we have it. We know how to shoot these. We know what workload looks like. And then it's going to be start traveling. But we're not, I mean, we have our list, but we don't have everyone nailed down. So, and don't say me. Like,
that would be like cheating, kind of. Yeah. Or we just save you for the final boss, and you're like December, and we're like, all right, we did all these just to lead up to do Robs.
We're gonna try to get bigger, right? But we're gonna try to pick those really interesting people.
I mean, to be honest, the idea kind of stemmed from us talking about doing a feature on you in January, not tied to a product, and then that's where we like really started having the conversation around like, well, what content are we trying to put out? And those conversations and ideas is kind of what led us to this anyway.
And I mean, Dana and I might be on the list. I mean, I guess I didn't think about that, but I know so often, I mean, even the brand book meeting we had, so to give a little more context, and if you go to my YouTube channel, this brand book formulation sort of, I stripped out all of our stuff and put it up for free download, so it's a free PDF. But essentially, when you build a brand, there's all different things you need, right? You need mission statement, you need core values, internal, external, you need color palette, you need logo mock-ups, you need fabric colors is what we have. We have the definition of like what our hardware on apparel looks like. We have photography direction in 5 different segments, what we really mean by gym footage, what we mean by outdoor footage. And it's I think it was like 42 pages that I shared with the team. And one of the things that I covered in the very beginning was I did a founder story. And when I did the founder story, I think it was like four slides, because I don't want to like talk too much about myself in the brand book, but it was 4 slides of printing out of a garage, printing out of a warehouse. And, you know, we ended up buying patio heaters to warm your hands up between packing bags, because your hands would freeze because there was just no HVAC. So if it was 20 outside, it was 20 inside. Yeah. And it was like, it was eye-opening, because I don't think anyone knows any of that. And then taking the risk on the big building, and then moving here, and why we did all this. And it's crazy that there's so many people that are part of this company that like, they get it. They know what the company stands for, but they don't know the history behind it. Yeah. So I take that for granted a lot, where they see Dana and they don't realize that like when Dana walked into the gym in 2002 for the first time with me, like why she did it. and her stance on training, and then what it did for her. They might know that, but they don't know, what it was like to enter her first few shows of the sacrifice, because they just see her now. And she's a famous fitness model who can do anything in fitness she wants, and she's just always in shape. And it's like, yeah, it's Daniel Bailey. But there's that question of like, how did you do this, right? And I think even me, sometimes I look back and I'm like, holy shit, like I see memories on Facebook and it's like, this was 8 years ago, and I'm like, whoa, like I am so much different.
The big thing that, and I've referenced it on these podcasts a few times, but it's just because I have so much of this information in my head already, is the Warhouse Gym camps really helped educate people on who you and Dana were, the founders, how it all kind of came in. Because my first time meeting you guys, I was there to see Flex Lewis.
Yeah.
And then I heard you tell the story about your job at QVC as an artist, going to school, and how you started the brand. And then you hear the story of Dana, and all of that information was always delivered via camps.
Yeah.
And we kind of never really put it anywhere else because that's what you came to the camps for.
Yeah.
So that behind the scenes look of the brand is really what we're trying to bring into this podcast, because those stories and all that information, the brand book and the founder story, it doesn't exist anywhere. You can't just go online and find it. You'd have to really hunt to figure out, like, all right, it started in the garage and then came here. And like, we have it on the website right now. It's something that we're working on addressing to really make it a linear, easy story for people to follow, to like really appreciate the past, pay respect to it, but then also like, here's the future and here's where we're going.
Do you think it's just us? Because I know you align with this, right? But
what is?
Do you think it's just us? Like that look at something like that, and I'm like, how did they start? Like, how did they get here? Because you see a car like, I mean, I know there's stories that everyone knows, right? Like everyone sort of knows Amazon, or they know Tesla a little bit, or Ferrari.
Yeah.
Like, and because there've been movies made about it, but then there's other brands that like you look at and you don't know. For example, Annie Ann's pretzels.
Yeah.
So Annie Ann's pretzels is everywhere.
Blow my mind.
Annie Ann's pretzels?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah. So they're everywhere, dude. You go into any mall, you go into an airport, they're like the biggest pretzel company ever.
Yeah.
So the town that I grew up in Downingtown, they had like a little tiny, there was a farmer's market. It was a dirt floor farmer's market. They knocked it down. Like, it was horrible. It was like, if you were a kid and you wanted to buy a butterfly knife, you would go there and buy it.
I could picture
and it was
perfectly.
So it was like essentially like a really bad flea market. Annie Ann's pretzels started there. Like,
really?
You're looking at me like you don't believe me. Why would I use...
My mind is blown, because I've ate Annie Ann's pretzels my whole life and never knew it
I
started.
blew Drew's mind the other day because like he grew up going there and he never saw it. And yeah, it was like, I forget what year it was, but they started there, and then they like, now they're everywhere. Yeah. And like, that's still my question, is like, wait, so what happened in between? Yeah. Like, what was the risk taken from, because to start a flea market pretzel place, what do you need, really?
Yeast, right?
Well, you need $100 to probably get the spot. Yeah. And then you don't need permitting.
No,
you don't need anything.
There.
You just, it's like you're a mom who makes pretzels at her house and then brings them to the $100 dirt floor flea market, and then it's like, hey, I got pretzels here, and you start buying them, and then you can buy a bigger oven, and like you can slowly do all that stuff. But the step from making pretzels in your house and selling them at a flea market to being literally everywhere. Yeah. Every airport, like everywhere. What the fuck? Yeah. Was like, what happened there? And that's what I want to know. And when I look at brands like that, that's my first thought, is like, well, what happened?
I think it depends on the brand, right? Because there's plenty of brands out there, and we know how people buy right now.
What brand don't you care about?
Don't I care about?
Yeah.
This is like a reverse question.
Like, no, pick a brand that like you don't.
That I don't care?
That you don't care.
That I don't care about their story.
About the origin story. Like, pick a brand that you don't care. What's yours? Yeah. Dana's back. What's yours?
Oh, we can't.
You don't use people like that.
I actually know their story a little bit.
And it's probably fucking rad, right?
It is.
Okay.
It actually is pretty
But like,
good.
I was thinking, I'm trying to think like vitamin water prior to 50 Cent buying in.
Cool.
Like, I guarantee that's a dope little story. Now, there's going to be stories out there.
Or like Harley Davidson or something. Like something general that...
Carhartt.
Like, I don't know any of their origin stories.
I don't know either, but I guarantee there at some point in time, like it's rare that there's just this big block of money that gets dropped in and then they just do it.
Yeah.
Because even I said Tesla a minute ago, right? So even with Tesla, right? So the origin story is with PayPal, essentially. So his sale of PayPal, you can look at that as like, oh yeah, Tesla just started with a ton of money.
Yeah.
But it's like you start to dig into that origin story and there's like chaos, like so much chaos in that. And you look at it and you're like, damn, all this problem solving, all these big boy risks, like origin stories to me are the most inspiring thing.
Yeah.
And with this mini doc series, like, I don't know where Hunter's going to go. Not that I don't care, but like, I don't care where his finish line is. I care about like
what he's doing.
What's in this point in time and what is the origin story? Even if we're in it right now, even better. And I think that's why I'm asking you, like, that's the stuff that gets me the most excited.
Yeah.
Than anything.
Well, that's where you can really connect with a brand. That's the difference between like going on Amazon right now and buying a $30 bra, or coming to Flegner Fail and buying a bra, or going to Old Navy and buying your joggers, or coming to Flegner Fail and buying some Forever joggers. And the way that the brand is presented and told is how all of a sudden those people, those consumers of your product can go out.
Identify
the Porsche story that I don't think you talked about, probably talked about it on a gym camp, but the Porsche story that you always talk about, I've told that to people.
It blows minds,
a million times over.
Yeah, the more you can educate the customer on what you do, the more it gives them the equity to advertise for you. So I think in storytelling is one of the most important things you can do. The more you can educate, the better, right? And sort of how I came up with the original thought was I worked at QVC, which is a home shopping network. I'm not even sure if it still exists
My
anymore.
mom's email address is QVC Queen. My childhood was QVC.
Okay.
When I heard you work there, I was like, this guy is the guy. Like, holy shit. She was on In the Kitchen with Bob, or what was it called?
She was on the show In the Kitchen with Bob.
Yeah, she was on it.
Bob was hammered all the time.
I know, you told me that.
He just, dude, the camera would shut off and he would turn to me and he would just be the wildest dude. Wait, In the Kitchen with Bob. Bob's the heavyset guy.
No, Bob was like this.
The skinnier guy. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
She was live on
the heavier
one of the
set guy
shows.
made me uncomfortable because he was like 2 inches taller than me and he was just enormous.
Damn, now I got to find the photos of you with the vacuum, or was it the...
I got it on my cell phone.
They'll be in the show notes.
I got it on my cell phone. So me working at QVC, the one thing I noticed was it was my first corporate job, and we'd show up to a meeting, and at the time Lost was a really big show.
Give us a date, real hard, just so we can...
early
2000s?
Maybe 2004, something like that. So we would show up, and it was like, I think American Idol was starting. The show Lost was just starting.
I was in
like
high school.
Yeah, you were in high school. And I would sit in these meetings, and people were like, oh my God, did you see Hillary Duff on on whatever the show? I don't even know, right? And I used to sit around, and I was like the outcast, and I would just like listen to these people talk. And listen to these people talk. And then I would go to the show and I would watch them like hard sell and explain every intricacy and the founder and all that. And I used to watch that. And then I used to listen to them talk about nonsense TV shows. And when I came out and we started, promoting Dana and we started making Flegner Fail, I remember I was like, I need to compete against Lost. So like that water cooler conversation or that conversation before a meeting, that's what you're competing with. If I can give them enough information and be compelling enough that I can distract them from talking about American Idol last night and then be like, yo, did you just see what Rob and Dana did? And that was the first time I really understood attention and storytelling. And then moving forward from there, another big click was when I first got into Porsche. Yeah. So I bought a Cayman S in 2007. So bought a Cayman S in 2007, which I later sold to you.
I then bought, that was my first Porsche as well.
Yeah. So I bought the Cayman S.
The first time I saw that car in person, when I went to the Flex Lewis camp, then a month later, I came out for the working interview, and I followed you over to the hotel. You're like, I'll show you where the hotel is. It was just down the street in Leesport. I remember like following behind the Porsche and like taking photos of it, and like,
it's so rad.
I'm like, this car
is
so
such
fun.
a sick
Because I had
car.
the big work graphic on it and everything.
And that car still to this day, I think, is like they're the most underrated cars.
They turned it into a track car. The guy that I sold it to,
because they're everyone that I've let drive it back in the day was always like, dude, this is like the best car ever. I was like, yeah, but Porsche underpowered it compared to the 911. It doesn't have the same clout, but it's like way better than a Boxster. And Caymans are like, you can pick them up for relatively cheap
I miss that car more than I missed the Panamera.
I believe it. You can pick them up for relatively cheap, and the performance on them is god awful insane. They're the dopest cars ever. Anyway, I remember getting into it because I was going back and forth from my Toyota Tacoma, my '98 Tacoma, and the 2007 Cayman. And I remember every time I would get in, I would take the key and I'd push it in the wrong side of the ignition. And I was like, these stupid fucking cars have the ignition on the wrong side. And I didn't drive it enough for my brain to remember.
Yeah.
So just muscle memory, and I just put it into the dash. There's probably scrapes on the dash right now. And then I eventually heard the story. And I forget who told it to me, but they're like, yeah, back in the day when they started making these cars, the races were started outside the car. So the drivers would line up and they'd have their keys and they'd say, go, and you'd run to your car and you'd get in. And as you get in, it's easier to put the key in on the left side as you get into the car. And then Porsche was like, yeah, we're just always going to do that. That's the same reason they still have keys up until this day.
Yeah.
So like my GT2 RS, for example, it has a fob, so it doesn't have a key, but you still insert the fob, right? Like in my...
The Panamera is the same way. Like my key fob does not go into the car. There's a permanent one on the left-hand side that you turn.
Yeah, and I think everyone moved to push-button starts, right? And that's like the illest thing ever. Like everyone's like, push button. But they're keeping that heritage. Now, if you don't know that story...
You're just
right?
like, this is stupid.
You're like, they put it on the wrong side. It must be German. It's stupid. Or they're like, I still have to turn this thing when everyone else has push button starts. But then when you find out the story of their racing heritage, dude, every time you get in that car, you're like, I'm a race car driver.
Anyone who's ever driven with me in mine, I always tell that story.
You tell the story.
Keys on the left hand.
Yeah, because, I'm a race car driver, right? And I think that like the more storytelling you can do with that, right?
Yeah.
And I think another one that really got my attention was Aaron Singerman. We went to Mar-a-Lago for my first time, and he does so many amazing things. He doesn't care about anything. So you just walk in and you just blah, blah, blah. And dude, the amount of stories that he told me. So when they onboard you going to Mar-a-Lago Club for the first time, they give you a tour and they tell you everything. So for example, there's a flag there that anytime I'm there, I post photos of, right? So the township was like, hey, your flag's 40 feet tall. It has to be under 40 feet. And he was like, no, I want a 40-foot flag. And they're like, no, you can't have it. So what he did was he built a 10-foot mound and then put the flag on top of it. So all of a sudden it's like, instead of just seeing a flag with a mound, you're like, whoa, that was like a defiance thing. And then you go over to the gym. And I remember the first time I went in the gym.
Is the gym there cool?
It's pretty decent. There's like a whole spa area. And the gym, it's not a real building. Like it's like a really good tent. And then there's also another dining room that's like a really good tent, like way too good of a tent. And I was like, well, what? And Aaron was like, oh my goodness. There was this big thing back and forth with the county. And like, dude, the amount of information that he's giving me, I'm like, why do you care so much? And he's like, well, they didn't let him build this and it couldn't be air conditioned. So he built this tent and it's like all the creative solutions. And by the time you're done hearing it, you're like, this is the coolest place ever.
Yeah.
Is it the coolest place ever? I don't know. But the more information that you're armed with and the more details that now I'm telling you 3 years later after I heard about the flag thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like still impressed, and it adds to the context of everything. And that's why storytelling is so important. That's why I care about these origin stories, because when you solve these problems to move ahead in life, like, dude, that's all the great stuff.
Yeah.
That's the cutting the chains off the restaurant. Like, shit, man. And that restaurant still stands today. Like, that dude's been fighting that fight for 15 years.
Yeah.
And now he's like stable. And you might look at him as like, oh, that's the rich business owner. But it's like, nah, dude, like 15 years ago, I was showing up at 10 a.m. between gym shifts, skipping school to cut locks off of it. Like, I want to know that stuff. I don't know how it works into his branding now as a fine dining restaurant, but like, that's all the stuff, that like grit, that not stopping at the first, road bump and being like, nah, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to figure it out. And I think that's what we want to accomplish this year. Because you see everybody online posting their highlights on YouTube videos, all these beautiful things. You see Dana Lynn Bailey showing up every day, like riding a bareback horse, being jacked. And you're like, yeah, it's just what she came out of the womb looking like.
Yeah.
And like, you find out about that story and you have so much more respect about where she is. Just like the keys, just like the flag, just like all these different things.
Just like Annie Ann's now.
Just like Annie Ann's, dude. You got to go look that up.
I want to figure out, like, were they the first ones to put the hot dog in the pretzel?
No, I don't think so. Because before that, I used to get those growing up as a child from the Swanson truck.
Swanson, like the turkey brand?
Did you have the Swanson truck? He was in the city. There was a freezer truck. So it was like almost like the size of an ambulance. And it had like all these little doors on it. And they would pull up to your house. So it's like kind of like a milkman. So we had a milkman growing up too, where they'd bring the milk to your house and it would sit in the freezer box. So I think it was kind of like a milkman or whatever. And they would drive to your house and be the Swanson guy, and they'd pull up and you could order whatever. So like you would get water ice from the Swanson guy.
Oh, really?
And they had bagel dogs, but I forget what they were called. But they're called bagel dogs.
Sounds
And they'd show up in a freezer truck, and they had, dude, all these little pocketed doors, and your mom would order stuff. And like, that's what I used to get. It was like Saturday, well, you have a bagel dog. And I was like, oh, I'm fine with this. And it's all you would eat all day.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Dude, and they were amazing.
I forget who I was talking to recently, but they were visiting, and Mr. Softy came by, and I was like, oh shit, the ice cream truck's outside. And they were like, what? And
I didn't have an ice cream truck. I knew of ice cream trucks
Really?
because I saw them on television. Dude, I live too far out, dude.
That's crazy.
The ROI on driving around my neighborhood wasn't good.
Well,
So we just didn't have enough.
well, I had when we moved back east, I downloaded the Mr. Softy app on my phone.
What do you mean app?
Shows you where all the trucks are. So I could be ready when he was near my neighborhood.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, you and I like that you and I have vastly
and
different.
we only grew up. How far is Westchester from Philly?
40 minutes.
Yeah, like mile-wise, it's not that far.
Well, you were in a city
Yeah.
to where the first time you ever cut the grass was when you
At
lived
Carsonia.
you lived in my house, and you asked me if you cut the
you
mulch.
were like, what are you going to do about this grass? I was like, oh, what am I supposed to do? You were
Yeah.
like, cut it.
And I remember
was
having
like,
that. I had that conversation because I started cutting grass when I was like 6.
Yeah.
And we had that conversation, and you were like, "Yeah, I don't know what we do with this." And I was like, "You cut it, dude. You're 25 years old." And you're like, "So I used to hose off the sidewalk at my house." And I was like, "What do you mean hose off?" And it was just so funny because like cutting grass to me is normal, and to you it was like hosing off the sidewalk. And
No.
I think there's been a bunch of those things. Like even right now with the snow with your new house, you're like, "So how do I get all this snow off my driveway?"
I was going to say last week we were talking about me buying a zero turn.
Yeah.
And we went from 10 years ago, I didn't even know that you had to cut grass.
Yeah.
To now I'm getting ready to acquire a zero turn. I think.
I think you should.
Yeah. I think I'm
you should.
going to.
Do that over a riding lawnmower. Riding lawnmower it's chiller, but I like the grass cutting experience from a zero turn.
I want the Riz, right? Is that what they say? The kids?
The Riz?
Or is that?
That's what the kids say. How old are you? 30. Why don't you know
Stumped
how old
him.
you are?
God.
We gotta stop asking him questions.
To be honest, I feel like, because I lost track of how old I am, and like sometimes I tell people I'm 38 and 37. I'm not really sure. I feel like once you hit the 30s, you're just in the 30s until you're 40, right?
Yeah. So I started telling people I was 40 prior to me being 40.
Just cause.
So when I was like 38, I started saying I was 40.
What are you now? 41.
41, but I've been telling people I'm 42. I don't know why I do this. I always just fast forward to
No,
the future.
I think I accidentally tell people I'm 38.
How old are you?
I think I'm 37. I was born in 88. Dun, dun,
So no one knows how old they are.
No, I mean, how do you know?
What does it matter?
Yeah.
We're all just having fun.
Yeah, we're all this is here.
Yeah. I don't
Existing.
know if I need to say this, but I do not feel my age.
What do you feel? Younger, right? Obviously.
Dude, I don't know. I did jiu-jitsu last night, and I just feel like a kid, man. Like, I think, once again, going back to the foundation of fitness, like, the more that I focus less on being a jacked 300 pounds and I'm under 250 and I'm, like, active and doing these things, like, I feel so young. I think back to, like, 33-year-old Rob, or no, 33-year-old Rob, I feel way better than that dude felt.
Yeah.
That dude as a trying to get as jacked as possible, like, I did not feel like an athlete. And now, like, I like almost want to go fight 33-year-old Rob or 32-year-old Rob. So 10 years ago, I'd love to, like, just go head to head with that dude in something. Like, he's going to outbench me and out squat me, but I don't think he can
Not shit that matters.
No, he can't beat me in anything else.
What makes me feel old right now is like when I'm watching sports and they're like, I feel like growing up watching sports, you always hear the announcers like, oh, this kid coming out of Alabama is going to be the best quarterback. And now watching sports and like realizing I'm watching 19-year-olds, I'm like, fuck, am I old?
Yeah, I've heard that a little bit.
Like, weird. But here we are. And what also terrified me about sports now, this is going to be weird. I don't even know how this pertains to anything. But when I watch sports now, I don't know why, but when I watch football, I think about you and Drew in pads, like hitting each other, and I'm like, I can't believe, because you're like the two biggest, largest structures of humans until I get my platforms that I know of. And I picture you two just in pads running full force, and I have like a new respect for football that I just acquired from being around you guys again, because you guys got taller, or I got shorter. Something happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't imagine me hitting you full speed.
No, what? No.
I also can't imagine actually fighting Drew. Like, I can imagine fighting
like when you're rolling at jiu-jitsu, are you rolling with people as big as you, or
Yeah. So there's a couple.
Just imagine you two actually trying to.
There's
kill
a couple
each other.
dudes that are in their 250s. I rolled last night with Thomas. Thomas is only like 235.
He's taller, right? From what.
But he's just about as tall. So he's like 6'2", 235. Yeah. I have like an inch on him, and then I have 15 pounds, which matters. But yeah, I only roll with big guys. Alex is probably a little bit heavier than me, I think. Alex is frustrating because I can't really lock around him. Like Thomas last night, like I can lock my ankles in and then I can choke. But Alex's neck is too big because he's been a football coach powerlifter forever.
Yeah.
So I actually, between my biceps and his neck, I can't choke him. So I have to like figure out different things. And then even like full guard and stuff like that, I can't keep my legs around him because if he just sits back a little bit, I pop out.
Are you getting like crazy sore from doing that just because you're using a lot of different muscles?
Last night was pretty bad. My both hands cramped. So I spent a lot of time like forearm on neck, like shaking hands out while
Yeah.
I try not to use my strength in jiu-jitsu, but
because technique, it's
every once in a while I do.
Yeah.
So Danny uses strength, but every once in a while, like if I have a hand cramp, I'm like, all right, I'll just resort to, I know if I put my forearm and smash his head into the mat, I can like shake my hand out.
Yeah.
Or like if something's going wrong and I can't technically figure out, I can normally just grab people's wrists and move them around like children.
Yeah.
So, but I actively don't do that unless like I'm tired or I'm about to be choked out.
Yeah. Fight or flight shit.
Yeah. I try to use it sparingly because I want to learn foundations. I want to get all that good. And then after I learn foundations, I figure strength can be added.
Yeah.
And then I think I'll be mediocre.
Is there like a end goal? Just another activity to stay in shape? Because like when I started doing Muay Thai, it was just so that, cool, my phone's over here. I have to focus on this or else I'm getting punched in the face. Like an actual disconnect from the world. Because like when you go to the gym, you still on your
how
phone.
much of a story do you want? So I did.
What time are we at? All of it.
I did. We're about there, but I did breath work. I got tricked into a breath work session. It was like a men's group, and Roster Runner was like, "Hey, you want to come to this thing?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll come to this thing." And I went there, and it was like this really intense men's breath work session where everyone like cries, and it's like, I wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
And I remember the whole time. They're like, yeah, you're going to have these thoughts and stuff. And all I thought the whole time was like, I need violence in my life. Like I need violence. And we all woke up and everyone's like, I forgave my 13-year-old self. And they're like, Rob, what did you? And I was like, I need violence. And they're like, what do you mean? And I was like, I feel like I've moved into an office and I'm being a creative. And I grew up with all these like really competitive sports that were very physical. And then I moved into weightlifting, and I treated that like sports.
Yeah.
I treated the weight as if it was an adversary, and that's why, was my forearm always the best? No, but there was a violence there. And then I sort of outgrew that because my body couldn't last. And then for the last 10 years, it's just been like, yeah, other than giving somebody a hug, like I don't have physical violence. And every once in a while I have, like at a couple expos, some people messed with you and I had to like pick them up and throw them. But
I remember one in particular. It's so funny. But go ahead.
So there's been a couple things like that, but not much, right?
Yeah.
And I always told Andy Stumpf, and I was like, hey man, like one day I want to roll together. And one day he's like, hey, just come out and fucking do it. And I did it. And like, dude, instantly I was like, whoa. Like I miss this physical, masculine, whatever the hell it
Primal,
is. Something about it I missed. And like the fact that we're all friends, we're all working together, but it's still like something. And then I'd say my third session in jiu-jitsu is where, well, the first session I learned some sweeps and I was like, oh my God. And then like the third session is where we started drilling and I realized that like, oh, like this, because I've had jiu-jitsu guys and MMA fighters in the past be like, size doesn't matter. And like in the middle of the night, I've been like, all right, cool. Do something to me. And they try to fucking whatever. And I just smash them on the ground. I'm like, so what move was that where I just fucking threw you?
Where you lost.
Because when you're 180 pounds, you still can't really do anything to Bradley Martin. So unless you're like a professional, right?
Yeah.
Maybe striking changes it, but just simple jiu-jitsu, that 100-pound weight difference doesn't do anything. So I just never really respected it as much. And after I did that a little bit, I was like, oh, these 200-pound dudes can rough me up in jiu-jitsu. Like, I don't know about striking, but like I have a different respect for people out on the street. And then I think after 6 months of it, I remember we were in Hawaii and I was walking around Hawaii, and it was the first time that I'd been walking around. I was a little tiny bit intoxicated. And I remember thinking to myself like, ooh, I don't like this. Because now walking around, like I feel like everything's under control. I feel like it's pretty sharp. I feel like if an altercation starts, I want to avoid it. But if it does start where I need to defend myself, I can choke somebody out really quick, flip them, choke them, drop them, and then back up and get out. Right. So I have this different confidence. It's like totally different confidence than like carrying a gun. It's a very normal confidence that you have in every single situation. And I remember the first time that I was a little drunk in Hawaii and we were walking around the street. And I remember just thinking to myself like, oh, I don't want to be intoxicated, even like buzzed in public.
In case I got to guillotine somebody.
Because I'm just aware now of like all these different skill sets.
Yeah.
And before I think I was just aware of like, they're either bigger than me or they have a pistol.
Yeah.
And those were the two things. And now it's like they're either bigger than me, they have a pistol,
or they know
jiu-jitsu. So I don't know, dude. It's a really cool thing. I don't want to compete, but it's definitely something that once a week I'm going to do. I love the cardio of it. I love the mental strain. I don't like getting choked out, but I like the panic of it. Like I like the panic of being like, oh no, I am in danger and I have 30 seconds or 4 seconds to figure this out. And like sort of just seeing what you're made of. Dude, it's so rad. And that's the reason I like business. Yeah. Business is the same thing. It's like stress. Oh, I need to see what I'm made of. And like, you have to figure it out. And jiu-jitsu is the same thing. Like you're twisted up and next thing you know, you're like, if I don't figure this out and focus and get my breathing under control and think right,
I'm going to be asleep in Hawaii.
I'm going to go to sleep.
On the floor. Fuck, I just got triangle choked.
So that's what I like. It helps that Dana really likes it. Dana was supposed to be on the podcast, then she left. You forgot about
we were right.
We should have Dana on the podcast coming up.
Next episode.
I don't know if we can do a 3 microphone setup, but maybe one of us can tap out and you can hop in.
I think we do. Or we might be able to.
You think so?
Yeah.
You don't need a mic? You should probably have a mic for the viewers. No, let's maybe they're gonna drop questions below.
Yeah.
And leave a comment or a 5-star review. If you're not gonna be 5-star, don't leave one.
Yeah, comment, like, share, subscribe, available on Spotify and YouTube podcasts and eventually Apple. I don't know where we're at right now with the Apple
and leave
thing.
some comments. Some comments, things you want us to talk about, questions you have, and including Dana, because I think I don't know what episode we're on, but I think it's about time to tap in you little tyke. You don't have anything to say?
Well, that's what. Leave
that's
questions.
Why we'll have three microphones, so we can just talk amongst ourselves, and you just sit there. Perfect. You'll be able to talk, babe. Gage won't. Gage doesn't have how old he is.
No.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's it. We got some work to do.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Comment, share, subscribe. Available on Spotify, YouTube.
Watch our Hunter documentary that's out that I'll be seeing the first time when you guys see it.
Yeah, and follow Rob's vlogs.
You don't have to do that, but
Why?
if you want to, I mean, I'd like people to watch.
Yeah,
we don't have to.
Here's what we need: if we're doing a hard ask, subscribe to the YouTube channel so we can get a silver play button.
Oh, we're close, right?
We're not necessarily close.
Striking distance.
We're a third of the way there.
Okay.
But I think with our efforts coming up, it's our goal for this year.
All right.
Which means we need 25,000 subscribers. So all 7 of you listen to this, send this to 25,000 of your friends, and then subscribe to this episode.
Good night, Dana.
Good night, Dana.